You keep that dream safe inside your head, untouched, unstarted, because a dream that never meets reality can never fail. 40,000 years ago, a hunter threw his spear at his prey. In an instant, he knew the result: a hit or a miss. His brain registered it immediately and learned that effort leads directly to outcome. The next day, he gathered fruit in the forest, his basket filled hour by hour. He watched his effort pile up right in front of his eyes. For tens of thousands of years, the human brain was trained on one simple rule: try today, see the result today, or at the latest, within a few days. That was the only way the brain knew how to tell itself, I am on the right path. But your world doesn't run on that rule anymore. You write a page today, and the book doesn't feel any closer to finished. You work out once, and the mirror looks exactly the same as yesterday. You save a small amount, and the number you're aiming for still feels just as far away. The ancient part of your brain doesn't know how to read these slow signals. It waits for a clear response, a hit or a miss, a full basket or an empty one, and it never comes. And when no signal arrives, it draws a very old, very instinctive conclusion. Maybe this effort isn't leading anywhere at all. That's not the truth. It's just a brain trying to read a modern world using a rule book written tens of thousands of years ago. You picture yourself at the finish line, the book finished, the body you've worked for, the number in your savings account finally reached. And that image is beautiful. It makes your heart beat a little faster. It's the thing that pulls you out of bed in the morning. But here's what tends to happen. You dream that dream, and then you dream it again, and again, while forgetting to connect it to one concrete action today. The dream stays exactly where it is, vivid and beautiful. It's just standing there, alone. There's an old saying our ancestors would have understood well. Little strokes fell great oaks. The dream tells you why the axe is worth picking up. But it's the small strokes, day after day, that actually bring the tree down. The big dream was never the problem. It never is. The problem is only that when it stands alone, with no small step walking beside it today, it stays exactly what it's always been: a dream. And when that ancient brain gets no proof that the effort is worth it, it does exactly what it's always done. It tells you to stop. Not as a clear command, but as a quiet thought some evening. It's fine to skip today. You'll get to it eventually. Tomorrow is still there. Each small skip isn't laziness. It's a mechanism tens of thousands of years old, trying to protect you from continuing to try without any proof that the trying is worth it. And that brain finds exactly the place to fill the gap. A like, a comment, a new video. All of it arrives instantly. Not in months, not in weeks. Right now. That's the exact kind of feedback your brain has been searching for tens of thousands of years. It just isn't coming from your effort anymore. It's coming from a tap of your thumb. In 2004, a team of neuroscientists at Princeton and Harvard put people into a brain scanner and had them choose between a small amount of money now or a larger amount several weeks later. What they found was that two entirely different brain systems were involved in that decision. When a reward could be received immediately, a region tied to the brain's dopamine system, the center of craving and instant pleasure, lit up strongly. But when the choice involved a delayed reward, whether the delay was short or long, a different region took over. The prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for reasoning and long-term planning. In other words, your brain doesn't process one page today and one like right now through the same system. One wakes up the ancient part of you, hungry for something immediate. The other only wakes up the rational part, the part that almost always loses when it has to compete directly against a reward you can touch this very second. This was never a fair fight. Every time you reach for your phone instead of the page you were writing, you're not weak. You're just letting a brain system tens of thousands of years old go up against a much younger one, the only one that knows how to see far ahead. And that instant system wins almost every time, unless you learn how to redesign the game. So how do you redesign it? First, you have to look straight at a belief that's been quietly running the show. Not the one you'd say out loud, but the one underneath it, what the psychologist Alfred Adler called private logic. A story you've come to believe is true, even though no one ever sat down and checked it with you. That story usually sounds something like this. If I can't do it brilliantly, I'd rather not do it at all. Or, if I'm not fully ready yet, there's no point starting now. It sounds reasonable, doesn't it? But it isn't the truth. It's a very sophisticated way of avoiding the feeling of not being good enough, by never letting yourself be tested in the first place. Adler believed that every one of us carries some sense of not being enough. He called it a feeling of inferiority, and he saw it as a completely normal part of being human, not a flaw. The question was never whether you feel it. The question is what you do with it. There's a healthy response, turning that feeling into fuel for growth, one small step at a time, what Adler called compensation. But there's another response, gentler in the short term and far more costly in the long run. Avoiding the situation entirely, so the feeling never has a chance to surface. Not writing, so you never have to see how rough the page looks. Not starting, so you never have to feel how far away the finish line really is. Seen this way, procrastination was never about a lack of discipline. It's a form of self-protection. It just happens to be protecting you from exactly the experiences you need in order to grow. Adler also believed people find their deepest sense of meaning not by proving how excellent they are, but by contributing something of value to others. He called this social interest. It's worth sitting with that for a moment. The book you want to write isn't only about proving you can write well. It might be exactly what someone else needs to read. The healthier body you're working toward isn't only about how you look in the mirror. It's about having the strength to stay by the people you love for longer. When a dream is seen through the lens of contribution, rather than only self-proof, the pressure to be perfect from the very first attempt starts to loosen. Because one small, imperfect step is still worth something, as long as it's moving in the right direction. Adler also drew a sharp line between praise and encouragement. Praise only shows up when there's a good result. Encouragement shows up even when the effort is far from perfect, because it honors the act of trying, not just the outcome. You may be used to judging yourself every time you fall short, but what you actually need right now isn't a harsher standard. It's a voice of encouragement, the kind a real friend would offer, one who understands that a small step today, imperfect as it is, still deserves to be recognized. So today, stop looking up at the mountain. Choose one single stroke of the axe. One page. It doesn't need to be good. It just needs to exist. 10 minutes of movement. It doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to start. One small deposit into savings. It doesn't need to be big. It just needs to be real. It isn't a giant leap forward, but it's evidence. Evidence for that ancient part of your brain that this effort really does lead somewhere. And every time you give it that evidence, the old strategy telling you to stop grows a little weaker. A great oak doesn't fall after one stroke of the axe, but it never falls at all without a single stroke.